E aí galera que tá ligada aqui na Stay Rock Brasil, beleza? Hoje estamos aqui com um convidado super especial, Siegfried, vocalista da banda DRAGONY. Sig, how you doing, bro?
Pretty good, thank you for having me.
Awesome, a pleasure. How long have you been trying to get this interview together?
I don't know, probably like 3 years.
No.
Feels like, no, it's not that long.
3,000 years, 3,000 years. Sig, I would like to walk with you back to the past, to these days. How did you get in the music industry?
Well, I've always been, of course, like a music fan first and foremost. So, like, I started listening to especially metal music in my teenage days, 15, 16 years old. And yeah, then during my time at university here in Vienna, I actually had my first band, which only lasted for about 2.5 years. And after that, basically founded what turned into DRAGONY. So the band started in 2007, so it's already been almost 15 years now. So next year it's going to be our 15th anniversary.
Wow.
So that started during my university days, and after finishing university I went to law school here in Austria, in Vienna. And I was lucky enough to pretty much immediately after graduation find a job at the Austrian Collective Management Society for Music Copyrights, which is called AKM. And yeah, I've been working there ever since, basically. Actually celebrating my 10-year anniversary there, also in a couple of weeks, on 8th of August.
Man, interesting, because you pretty much finish university and then jump into the former bands and then start working for licensed music. But what made you just start like singing and did you sing since you were a kid?
No, absolutely not. Like absolutely not. Like the surprising thing is that my family on my mother's side, they're quite musically talented, especially some of my uncles. They have like very good singing talents and pitch and everything, and I didn't inherit much of that, to be honest. So it was mostly just like training, kind of, because I wanted to do it. I always loved it, and yeah, just wanted to try it. And in my very first band, like when I was still a teenager, like playing at school with some friends, I was playing guitar. And the thing is, like, then I came to Vienna, and there was like hundreds of thousands of guitarists, all much better than I was, but you don't find any singers. I was like, okay, you know what, I will just switch to singing. I will just switch to singing. Had no idea how to do it, and it was very bad, very bad for a very long time. But over time, you know, with practice and just doing it, it kind of got better. And yeah, now here we are, like some 15 years later, and yes, have a band, still doing well, and yeah, that's kind of how I got into the whole.
Nice. And you also the vocalist of Visions of Atlantis.
Yeah,
how did you get this gig?
That went through a mutual friend of actually the original keyboarder for Visions of Atlantis, Chris Kamper. He was like in the original forming lineup. And I knew his brother through also mutual gigs that we played over the years. And when Thomas Kasser, the leader of the band, the drummer, he was looking to kind of do a reboot of the band in the old kind of Visions of Atlantis style back in 2012-13. Yeah, Chris got recommended through this mutual friend of ours. So when basically his brother recommended me to Chris and Chris to Tom, and yeah, that's how it kind of came to pass. And I was there for 5 years, so from 2013 till 2018.
Wow, man! So it was like also like a really good school, right? I mean, to learn like how the music industry works, like, you know, gigs and this and traveling and.
Yeah, absolutely, because with Visions of Atlantis it was of course like a much higher level than DRAGONY at the time, like playing bigger shows, playing a lot of festivals, going actually on tour on a more regular basis. With DRAGONY we hadn't even done any tours yet. Yeah, the first one we did was in 2015, so that was at a time when I was already with Visions of Atlantis for 2 years. So yeah, that was a very educational period for sure. And, yeah, it was great to see how things are operating on that level, and of course that was kind of the goal, to take DRAGONY to maybe not exactly the same level, that's probably not realistic, but at least somewhere up there.
And Sig, how was like the first time you jump on the stage, a big audience? Did you shake like a bamboo in the storm, or just like, okay, right guys, let's go?
Actually the funny thing is, like, for me, always like the more intimate, like really small performances are the more difficult ones, or where I'm more nervous, especially if it's a lot of friends and family. Because if it's
So
just like, if I'm just playing like in front of a bunch of strangers, basically, and especially if it's like large crowds, like you don't really see any individual person anymore. Yeah, you can look into the crowd and see that guy, that girl, but it's like it kind of just dissipates into a whole ocean of people, and then it's kind of easy. And also at festivals, of course, the people are already super pumped and super excited. They want to party, so there's immediately a lot of energy there. With a club gig, especially if you're like the support act and you're opening, it's much harder to get people excited. So I think the big festival shows are easier in that respect.
Nice. And talking about Dragony, you guys still in the original lineup, right?
No, actually not. Like the original lineup that was started back in 2007 existed until 2012. That was actually the same year that we released the debut album, which was recorded with the original starting lineup. But then we had some changes. We had a replacement. We had to change our guitar player and our keyboard player. So we played some of those shows that came with the release of the new album already with the new lineup, basically. And ever since then, so 2012, it's been the same lineup. So that's almost 10 years now.
Wow, that's a long time. And you guys come from different, what do you call, guys are influenced, like from different type of music, right?
A little bit, I would say. Like I think like power metal in general does unite us on somehow the common denominator, basically. I know our drummer Frederick, like he has a little bit of a jazz background. He likes a lot of progressive metal, jazzy metal stuff, like the more experimental stuff. Me, I'm also a lot into like 80s classic rock, that kind of thing. I think our guitar player Simon, he's also been into metalcore. So there's like some influences from different kind of genres there for sure. But in general, like power metal for sure is the core for us all.
Yeah, because I mean, when I listened to you guys the first time at Viper Room at the Wacken...
Metal Battle?
Yes, exactly, when you guys won the contest. I could see that, I could picture like a bit of Nightwish, a little bit here, a bit of Angra here, sometimes a little bit of Europe, the rock parts, but also like and sometimes like speed metal, like you could hear like the double bass, like and I was like, what is this thing?
It's an interesting mix, I would say. I think, like for me, one of the main influences I was listening to growing up was Hammerfall. That was like kind of the band that got me into like power metal or metal in general. I basically only knew Metallica before, and then with Hammerfall, like everything started rolling. So I was listening a lot to that. I'm a huge fan of Edgar, Anastasia, that kind of songwriting. Of course, listening to Sonata Arctica, Stratovarius, those classics. So it's like a little bit from there that I take my main inspiration for songwriting. So I would say that it's a mix of Hammerfall with Avantasia, a little bit of Nightwish, a little bit of Camelot, a little bit of Sonata Arctica.
Yeah, it's a nice combination.
Hopefully.
Now I really understand the roots, the ascension of Dragony.
Yeah, now it makes sense. Yeah.
Now it makes 100% sense. As you said, like you guys did a tour with Dragony, like when it was 2015, as you said.
Yeah, we were
right?
touring with Gamma Ray, actually. So that was our first tour, and we were lucky to score a pretty big one, actually, because I mean Gamma Ray with Kai Hansen, of course, like being one of the godfathers of power metal. They were celebrating their 25th anniversary on that tour, so that was really awesome. We were the opening act. It was Sirius Black and it was Gamma Ray, and we did like a short European tour. It was like I think probably like 12 shows or something. So it was like 2.5 weeks. It was a really great experience, especially for a first tour, and even as an opening act that is like very small, like hasn't been playing any tours yet. They were treating us like super nicely and super fair, and like their whole crew, they helped us out, and they did basically the job also for us. So that was like really fantastic. Absolutely great guys. Can recommend.
I hear you. Well, for the past, I mean, I sometimes say the past 2 centuries, but it's been only 2 years. This Corona thing.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you guys really use the Corona time, right? I mean, you guys release a new album, work on it.
yeah, like make the best out of a crappy situation, I guess. I mean, it was time for us to come up with a new album. The previous one was released in 2018, so it was kind of time to get started. We started in the end of 2019, basically, with the first kind of songwriting, pre-production stuff, and then throughout 2020 was planned to do the recordings, and then of course Corona happened, everything got delayed a bit, because originally we were aiming for release around the fall of 2020 already. But yeah, then a lot of stuff happened, like with Corona, everything got delayed, but we also had some great news because we signed the new label deal with Napalm Records.
True.
And since we were like a new act for them, then releasing something late in the year, you know, towards Christmas season, especially for a smaller band, doesn't make sense because you get lost in the shuffle with all the releases from the big acts.
True.
So they decided to kind of push it to January. We were, I think, in the second week that releases took place. I think 15th of January we had the release of our current album, Viribus Unitis. Yeah. And so yeah, we've been busy even during Corona.
That's, I mean, I was listening, I mean, since you sent me the files, and I've been listening, you know, even today as well.
Excellent.
And now talk about the whole, the creating this album. I mean, do you guys, everybody writes together, or like for example, say you write the songs, or you write the lyrics, or how does it work?
Yeah, like I would say, like I'm probably like the principal songwriter, and generally also like band leader, if you will, if there's like something like that. So I basically kind of try to make stuff happen, and like of course coordinate with the guys, and we try to come up with the rest together. So I would produce maybe some song idea, like record some very rough demo, you know, with main melody line, harmonies, or kind of drums, etc. And then I would send it to the guys, they can give their input. But mostly what we do is we write the songs in the studio with our producer, Frank Pitters. We've been working with him for basically since the beginning of the band. So he's like kind of the seventh member of the band, so he contributes a lot to the songwriting. And this time we also worked with another guitarist, actually, Matt Plekhanov. He's from Russia originally. And yeah, because of Corona, you know, with the kind of not everybody being available.
Very online.
Yeah, exactly, and that's how we kind of put this album together with a strong emphasis on more guitar parts, and yeah, I think it came together really nicely.
And also talk about the title of the album. For those who don't understand Latin, Viribus, what does it mean, and why this title?
No, it's a certain tense of the word force, basically, and Viribus Unitis is translates to with united forces, and it was the actual official motto of the Habsburg Emperor Francis Joseph. He was still is a very popular figure here in Austrian culture. You know, was living in from basically almost the whole 19th century until the beginning of the 20th century. So the times of World War I, and so we took that as a title for the album. First of all, because it's a pretty epic power metal title with United Forces. And also because we made kind of a concept album about Kaiser Franz Josef, Empress Elizabeth, their son Rudolf, but put the whole thing into sort of an alternative history, fictionalized context. So that was the idea behind Viribus Unitis.
And also I saw, like, you know, the art of the album. Who created those drawings? Yeah,
so
really amazing, very futuristic, you know.
Yeah. So the idea came from us, of course, because it should work together with the album concept. We have, you know, Kaiser Franz Josef there, but in our story he's turned into a basically like steampunk warrior and turned from Kaiser Franz Josef to cyberpunk Joseph. And we have a zombified Empress Elizabeth there. We have Nikola Tesla who we throw in, Harry Houdini we throw in. And the artwork was made by a Serbian artist, Dusan Markovic. We already worked with him on the past two releases, so Lords of the Hunt was one of his drawings that was actually already existing, so we kind of just bought that from him for this album, or this EP rather. And then for the previous album, Masters of the Multiverse, that was also an original creation by him, and now for Viribus Unitis as well.
Nice. And since the album now is out, how is the plans to like let the world knows about this? I know he's still growing and things are like this and that, but
Yeah, it was difficult enough. I mean, we had to postpone our album release show also. We originally wanted to do it in February. Now we did it finally in June. Still with some restrictions, you know, with seating only, with masks. It was kind of tough, especially for the audience, because it was 36 degrees and sitting with masks, no drinking on the seat. Like, it was a bit uncomfortable, I guess. It was still a cool show and cool experience, but I hope that the next shows will be like traditionally, you know, standing with no restrictions. And yeah, and I hope that we can take the album now to some festivals. We have some coming up, like in Czech Republic, Rock Castle Festival in about a month. And we would have Metal Hammer Paradise in November in Germany, if it happens. And then hopefully next year, when things are easier again, then maybe there will be 1 or 2 tours, who knows, keeping fingers crossed.
Oh dude, I hope so. Sigma, man. Pleasure, brother.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure interviewing you.